Athletor Podcast. We are back. Derek Moore, thank you so much for coming on and taking a little bit of time out of your day, number one. But number two, I have so many questions about you and the CBU program and your processes more specifically. But why don't you do this first? You have a pretty unusual road to NCAA wrestling, coaching it wise. Why don't you give everybody a little bit of backstory as to how you kind of became the head coach of a Division I school in Southern California?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a wild ride for sure. I look at my entire life, whether it's wrestling career or coaching, and feel like it's very, very entrepreneurial, if you will. I'm from Redding, California. It's in the north section, not the toughest area of California wrestling at all. Took fifth in the state, was the best I did. Walked on to UC Davis underneath Lenny Zaleski, who three-time Hall of Fame coach, wrestled under Dan Gable. He brought me on, poured into me, went undefeated as a national champion my senior year to win a national title. But I had to walk on to UC Davis, so I applied and got accepted for an ROTC scholarship, meaning that they paid for my undergraduate degree, and I owed them 4 years of active duty service when I was done competing and getting my degree at Davis. So right after Davis, went into the Army, trained for 9 months to be a field artillery officer. During that time, after winning a national championship, I applied for the WCAT, got accepted, and went up to Colorado Springs with Sean Lewis and the World Class Athlete program, which was primarily Greco at the time. I was the lone freestyler at the start of the 2012 quad in 2008. I got there in the Olympic Training Center. It was Terry Brands and that whole crew. It was amazing. After 2008, it emptied out a little bit. Brandon Slay took over with Zeke Jones, and I stayed there and trained as they rebuilt the RTC training process. And it was a great opportunity for me to compete overseas, train and represent the U.S. and the Army, but struggled to stay healthy in that time. Folk style was definitely more my style, as much as I love wrestling as a whole. And ultimately, after qualifying for the Olympic trials, didn't make the team. Had a 1-point match with Coleman Scott at the Schultz before. It was back when those rules were just a little bit crazy with the 2-2-2.
I call it the dark ages, but go ahead.
Dark ages for sure. You can't.
Right? Like we're going to look back on that in years and go, what were we thinking?
How are you taking points away from wrestlers? It killed me.
Do you remember that? And look, God bless him for trying, right? Like, I mean, but do you remember the half takedown was a point for like a 6-month period? There was 2013 where everything started to change, and they were like, yeah, what if you get to a leg, you get a point. What? Bananas.
Yeah, just wild. I don't know who's on that the board of the decision making process, but yeah, there was some hard times. I love where it is right now for sure, but yeah. Technique and talent, genetic gifts were never my thing. I was the tallest, skinniest wrestler of any weight class that I ever wrestled at, and so I had to grind people out and get them tired. And when you could go 2-2-2, it just didn't really fit for my schedule, for my style. But I loved the time. I loved the opportunities, and I found some success in college, and I found a little bit of success and some failures. But now as a coach, it allows me to look back and lean on those and help pour into athletes who go through some of those challenges and hopefully don't have it. The goal is to not have any regrets. Whatever we do, we go out there and leave it all out there. So after the 2012 Olympic trials, I wanted to see if the military was going to be my life. I love the military. It was a great opportunity. And so I went into a deployable unit as a field artillery officer, served for about a year, was going to do a deployment, but I had a torn ACL that I torn about 8 months before the Olympic trials that I needed to have fixed. Ultimately, when they went in there, they needed to do 2 surgeries. I wasn't able to go on the deployment. And I really felt like that was God's hand in my life saying, maybe this isn't for you. And I started missing wrestling a ton. It was the first time in my life I had never had wrestling. So I decided to put some feelers out there with Brandon Slay and Zeke, and an opportunity opened up on the East Coast. Sacred Heart University. It was by far the most struggling Division I institution in America when it came to wrestling. There were only 5 wrestlers on the team. and a lot of them struggled, to even be competitive on any team. And so we had a big recruiting class coming in. Andy Lozier had stepped in the year prior to rebuild that. And I decided to believe in him and trust him and his vision, an amazing man, to go out and try to rebuild this Division I program with limited resources. We had 1.5 scholarships, $60,000 a year to go to school there. And it was a great opportunity for me as a first coaching job to understand how to be resourceful when you don't have very many resources.
Boy, that is a gentle way of putting it. That is well put, sir. Resourceful indeed. Go ahead. Let's just circle that. Okay.
We tried everything, and our goal was to get some buy-in from the administration. If these guys are willing to work this hard and they're given this small pocket of resources, what if we give them a little bit more and see what they can do with? And after 4 years, we realized it wasn't really about that as much. And so we both decided to move on at the same time. There probably was an opportunity for me to take over as head coach as Andy was leaving, but I wanted to go to a school where there was a little more accountability, a little bit more resource, a little bit more opportunity to build and grow. But I learned a ton from Andy, a ton from that situation, and I loved my time there. But I was coming back home to California for a Hall of Fame banquet at UC Davis, being inducted to the Hall of Fame. And honestly, I never thought I would actually accept that. But at the time, new athletic director, new president, I saw it as an opportunity to share with them what wrestling was and to kind of open their ears to what wrestling still could be there during that banquet. And so it was a great opportunity to go back and be recognized and share with them. And maybe someday they'll start that back up, and hopefully some seeds were planted. But, we'll see how that goes. Coach Zaleski looks over at me and says, "Hey, by the way, there's an opportunity here. We're going to take this team Division I. I think it might be a good time for you to come and take a look at it." And CBU sounded like a small school. That wasn't really what I was looking after being D1 to come to a D2 program. But as a favor to him, I decided to come and take a look at it. And when I came down here, I was blown away. It was nothing of what I thought it was going to be. The investment from the institution was just amazing from a resource standpoint. The facilities, the vision, the growth that they have here, as well as the faith-based atmosphere. It was a time in my life where I was really growing in my faith, growing to know the Lord. And when I came here and the athletic director prayed with all of the staff and coaches and saw what type of experience it was going to be a coach at this university, I felt called and drawn here. And I knew that this is where I was meant to be. And so I gave Coach Z a call, and we found a way to work it out. And I think it was spring of 2017. I made the move out from the East Coast back to the West Coast, pretty much sold everything and just came out with a suitcase, moved in with Coach Z, and started my life finally back in California after, what was that, almost 10 years being out of California into the military and coaching on the East Coast. And we took a D2 team, took third of the nation, had 3 Division II finalists and a champion that last year. We were the most successful Division II program in the nation. We won the Learfield Cup. So all the athletics here was really successful in Division II. And so it was time for them to make the jump. It was always a plan for the president after 5 years to make the move. And I didn't realize how hard that was going to be. Maybe it was
that's the line of questioning I was going to follow, sir. Oh, you think you want to go D1, don't you?
Well, I love being D1. Just 4 years of no postseason is insane.
Yeah,
it is wild. For some sports, maybe it makes sense. In basketball, you have the NIT, you have these other tournaments. In football, you can still go and do some things. But in wrestling, the Olympic sports, when you remove a conference and a national title, you remove everything you're training for, really, at the end of the year.
Sure.
You're removing that golden ticket and that opportunity. And so recruiting was a challenge during that time, to say the least. But we had some great young men commit to being a part of building this, a part of this program during the time. And we went out and just competed and built and poured into them as best we can, looking towards the future of where we are right now.
Yeah. So, but now that you do have the Big 12 championships and the NCAA tournament to dangle the carrot in front of these kids' faces, what are the challenges that you've had to deal with that you didn't have to deal with at Division II level?
Obviously, the level of competitiveness is one. The resources between the haves and have-nots in Division I The parity across the division is night and day. D2, I think we had 10 different national champions that year from 10 different schools. And the team race is competitive, and there's just a little bit different environment. To be a brand new D2 program, only being our 5th year, and to be pushing towards a title shows us if you're given the resources, you can make it happen. And that's very similar to D1, but the amount of resources you need at D1 to be competitive is a lot different than D2. And the recruiting road is a bit more intense. In D2, the model was more so wait a little bit towards, spring of their senior year and see who's not quite going D1, has the ability, or pick up those who are coming back from D1 that maybe didn't quite want that level of competition. And so we were able to pick up some good transfers. We were able to grab some guys late when money was tight at the D1 level. Now it's much different. You have to recruit early. You have to get on them early. You have to make the offers early, and you have to build those relationships earlier and very consistently. And so there's definitely a lot more to the picture from the recruiting standpoint at a D1 than the D2 level. And, I think everyone's seeing what's happening with NIL and the haves from the have-nots with the Big Tens and big-time Big 12 programs. That's going to be challenging for mid-majors for us as we look to build. You see it all over with Cal Poly and Bernie Truax, and even John's doing a great job of trying to develop that NIL. But
it becomes a. I don't want to say impossible situation, but it becomes a very simple decision for a young man, and like I talk to my son about all the time, because he loves, one of his favorite wrestlers is Parker Keckeisen.
Okay.
Just because Parker spent some time rolling around with him at a tournament one time, whatever. So the point is, though, that he's like, well, why can't everybody just be like Parker and stay at a UNI when there have been 6-figure offers on the table for him to go somewhere else? I go, because Parker's crazy, and guess what? You take that deal, bud. And it's, and I say it half in jest because there's a lot to be said for the loyalty that Parker's shown, and also the investment in relationships that he's made. Like, that's a big deal, dude. But there's $250,000 on the table and Shane Griff's going to take it. Well, I can't really blame him. It's hard to blame him, right? So how are you dealing with that, man? It's freaking tough.
It is. And it's the nature of who we are. I think the more you try to fight it, the more you're going to rip your hair out. Honestly, it is who you are. And if we're able to develop guys up to that level to where they are competitive, we have a conversation, and do we have a strong enough relationship to keep you here? Can we find a way to raise the money enough so it makes sense? You don't feel like you're losing out too much, or is it a build up and good luck? And so for us, for my staff, we try to build those relationships and do the best we can to pour into them. And ultimately, if it comes down to it, the opportunity just makes too much sense. Then it was the same thing with John and then Bernie and so. You try to do what you can as a coach to give them the ability to succeed in everything they can in your home environment. But if ultimately that money is too much and the opportunity is too big for them, you've got to let them fly and make their own decisions. And that's kind of where we are with transfer portal and the NIL, especially with mid-major and smaller programs like us. They're going to continue to pull from the top of those who have proven themselves within. Recruiting the high school guys continues to be a bigger risk than those who have proven themselves in college.
I think that is going. I'm going to digress from that because we kick the crap out of NIL on this show a lot. So I want to digress from that. One of the things that really piques my interest about CBU, but also really Derek Moore individually, you have an incredible ability to identify talent. Now you're going to tell me that you pawn that off on your assistants now more so than you have in the past, but that directive has come from you. It's not easy going, okay, this kid may not be the best kid in the country, and he might not have the eyeballs of the Penn States, the Iowas, the whatever on him, but dang it, there's something there. And how do you do that? What boxes does a kid have to check in order for him to really to pursue a kid like Paul Kelly?
Yeah, for me, it's a few different things. Character and fight are kind of two main things that I like to start with, is character and fight. Who are you as a young man? Can I trust you and you trust me? And then do you have this innate desire to just fight? And, when I was doing a lot more of the recruiting under Coach Z, finding a guy like Mitchell Messenbrink, who's just attacking more than anyone I've ever seen attack and loves wrestling more than anyone that I've ever met in my entire life. There's a connection there, and you see it. And he hadn't done really anything outside of a Wisconsin state title before he had kind of really blown up. And so just looking for some of those key elements. And I just love this sport so much. And if I can find a young man that can communicate about this sport, how much he loves it, how much he identifies with it, how much he loves to learn technique, I think is the other piece for me, because I was such a technician, is something that I really, really look for. MJ Gaitan, when he had committed here before he had won Super 32 and beat Levi Haynes, just his mindset around technique and how mat savvy he was just something really, really
smart. Yeah, for sure.
A smart wrestler. And he was a little different in that he wasn't the most aggressive, but when he got in wrestling positions, you could just see the way that he moved. His natural habits were just so innate to him that I was like, man, I would just love to work with this guy and see what we can do to continue to give it to him. Paul Kelly's been a unique thing where I've known him for so long, since we recruited his older brother and he was in 8th grade. But you can just see on his face how much he loves this sport. Win or lose, he fights the entire time. And it's been fun to see him develop in his technique. And that's going to be the main thing for him, is what can we give him the tools necessary. But the one unique thing about CBU that helps me and helps all of us in our recruiting process is its name. California Baptist University. It is self-filtering in nature because of the faith-based atmosphere. The character piece is already built in. If you are coming to it, you want to party hardy and Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night are what you're looking for, you're just not going to call me back, or you're hopefully going to be respectful enough to know that this is not going to be what you're looking for. So that helps us a little bit kind of narrow the pool, and then make it about your love of the sport, your character as an individual, and your ability to fight in the third period. And a lot of the guys that we're looking at are losing those really close matches to the top talent guys. They're right there at Super 32 or Ironman, and we're funneling through those brackets of who was really close and who didn't give up when they were losing, who continued to throw the kitchen sink at them despite losing, where your effort isn't dependent on your situation. Your effort is your effort no matter what. And if that's the case, I believe you can do something with those kids when they're not changing how they fight, how they wrestle, or their mindset dictating, their effort levels. And if we can put a team of 10 guys out there that fight no matter where they're at, I believe we can give them the technique, and they're going to continue to grind in the room until they figure it out.
For sure. No question. So you said character and fight. What other thing? So to someone like me, or maybe not like me, maybe somebody that's a little bit further removed from the sport. I'm in there every day. I see this stuff on a pretty intimate basis. Somebody that's a little bit more removed from the sport, what are some of the characteristics of fight that you're looking for? Are you just because it's not just about the way that they compete in the third period. Are you looking for back end, right? Back end of the bracket, right? Like, do they go semi-slide? What other things are you, what is something that a novice coach can look for in an athlete and say, ooh, he's got some fight in him because he did this?
Yeah. I think it's a few different things for me that I talk with our athletes about. It's not being fearless, it's being courageous. So you're always going to have nerves, you're always going to have anxiety, but still that courage to go out and take a shot against a guy that's higher ranked than you, or that you're supposed to lose against, and not being afraid of making a mistake or getting taken down, and willingness to come up, and not just accepting your place on a piece of paper. Everybody has weapons. You're out here wrestling, your coach are teaching you weapons. How are you executing those without being afraid of making a mistake out there? I think for me, that's fight. The more that you can go out there and throw the weapons that you have at your opponent, and then use your failure or success in that execution to grow, the faster you will grow and will develop. But the more that you are hesitant and you're afraid to score or make mistakes, you won't make those mistakes, and so you won't correct those mistakes. And so that courage to go out there and execute. But then, that third period, when you get tired, what are you doing? How are you hustling and not afraid to get tired? I think the two biggest fears in the sport of wrestling are fear of making a mistake and fear of fatigue and getting tired. And those are the two biggest inhibitors of athletes going out and executing to their potential. And if you can remove those two things and embrace them instead, you have fight, you have grit, you have perseverance, you have the ability to put yourself in a situation to grow.
That's well put, sir. That is well put. Because everyone knows that the fear of exhaustion is a thing. There are certain kids, and if we're going to be honest, like that is one of the reasons that a lot of kids, you hear kids that are practice room heroes. Well, it could be that they're afraid of making a mistake in a match, and combined with the fear of getting exhausted in a match and then making a mistake. But that is really, really well put. You have started to build some kids that are pretty courageous, guys that you're starting, right? Like you had to start somewhere, right? And that's fine. But I like this kid, Elijah Griffin. Okay. That kid has a little bit of a snarl to him. He's got a little bit of fight to him. He was hey, listen, I introduced myself to him, I think this past weekend, and he was plumb pissed off that Jory Volk was not in the lineup. Plumb pissed off that that tells me this kid wants to fight. I like this kid. Talk to me a little bit about the development of a kid like Elijah Griffin.
Yeah, Eli has all the ability to go and be a national champion for sure. He's got the mindset for it. He's got the support. He's a young man that loves to fight. He's in the room, and he's a guy we have to maybe reel back a little bit sometimes. And it's a pleasure, because you know that he loves it as much as we love it, and you can lock arms and go hand in hand. For him, it's going to be a technical growth piece, continue to keep him in good position. He was a 4-time state champ out of Oklahoma at Cassia Hall, much smaller program. And so the technical development for him is where he is going to make his massive gains, because he has the fight. He's not afraid to get tired. He's going to throw the kitchen sink at you. He struggled a little bit just to stay healthy. Some freak accidents his first couple of years. And even that Iowa match, he hit his head a little bit and ended up, having to recover from that. But he wants to go out there and fight, and he wants to wrestle the best, and he wants to have the opportunity to be tested for sure. And so for us, it's a matter of continue to hone in that passion that he has, that love he has, that leadership quality he has, and build his technical. He would rather wrestle every single day for an hour than sometimes work on some of the technique, because he just loves this sport so much. And so it's a matter of getting together with him, focusing on the fine details of it and where he needs to grow. And he's gonna start to hit some strides here. The second year of college, especially after that Wyoming, when he got caught there after getting takedown after takedown, he's fired up right now. And he's even this weekend, he's like, I want every match opportunity to compete, because he doesn't have to compete maybe at Vanguard every Riddle, but he's I want to weigh in, I want to be there, I want to scrap. And so it's a lot of fun to continue to work with this guy, and he raises the level of the room. Everybody sees him. He's the one running around. We say, all right, walk it out, cool down. He's still running, and so it's great. And you see the guys rise up with him. So I'm excited for him this year. Just keeping him healthy is going to be the key. Some small technical developments in a few areas, and he has the ability to go and win a national title.
You talk about things that you look for in your wrestlers of character and fight and, a desire to learn. And, these aren't exactly things that you are able to just pull up the top 100 list and see, oh, this person fights or not. How do you, one, go about identifying those traits? And two, do you think that it makes your job as a recruiter more difficult than if you were at Penn State, where they can just pull up, oh, top 100, I'll pick 1, 2, 3, and 4?
100%. It takes a lot more time to watch the videos. It's not just where do you place and where are you ranked. Those are initial identifiers to find a name on a sheet. And then you got to take that name and find those qualities that you're looking for by watching more than one video, and not just when they're winning, but especially when they're losing. Where they're losing and how are they losing are really important to me, because I truly believe that losses are where you make most of your gains, and your attitude and how you look at those losses are really, really important. Is it where did I lose, where I need to go, or is it for me, I suck or this and that, or self-deprecating situation? But if you can embrace that process of challenging yourself and the hills and valleys that you go through on your way up. So it's talking with their coaches, it's talking with them, and it's watching a lot of video. But initially, Penn State, they only need to take a look at those top 5 and they pick the one they want. We're looking at the top 150, and we're finding the ones in those 50 to 150 that fit our mold, that fit what we're looking for. And initially, are you a faith fit? Are you willing to come to a faith-based institution where learning about Jesus Christ is going to be a part of your culture? And there's no requirements here at CB, which I love. There's no judgment at all. We have guys on our team that are not believers and guys on our team that are believers, but having an open mind to it and being a part of our student experience is a piece of CBU. So it does decrease our pool significantly compared to a lot of other programs, which, like I said, it is good and challenging at the same time. And so, going through those lists, looking at those brackets, sometimes we'll look at a top 150 guy and we'll find a guy that beat him that isn't even on there. It's like, okay, where did this guy go and how did they lose? And so it's kind of going through the comb. Eric Morrill is a savant when it comes to recruiting. He loves it. He just dives into the recruiting. If that's all he did all day long, it'd be great. But I need some administrative help, so I got to give him some of those videos as well, which he hates. But it's good for him. And so he's on the road. He's a road warrior. Loves getting out there and meeting people, and he just has a mind for who's beat who and where and who they are. And so we sit down and have our recruiting meetings each week of who we're looking at, where are they at, where are they competing, who do we need to reach out to and pour into, and what do they do? And so it is challenging. It is a big piece of the job. I believe recruiting is the number one needle mover in coaching.
It's certainly the easiest way to make an immediate impact, right? I mean, you get one, and it could change your stars. Like it can change the outcome of your NCAA finish in a big way. I mean, at a macro level, you look at a team like Minnesota, and they're probably not in the top 10 right now. However, if a young man named Gable Stevenson comes back, that's a very different thing. Okay. So it takes one athlete. Okay. And it can completely change the outcome of your season. How do you get them to stay? And I know I'm touching on a nerve here. It's not easy to talk about, but you had Messenbrink in the room. He gets scooped away from you. You had Gaitan, who's a local kid. He gets scooped away from you. How do you build? How do you build? Like, dude, I got to be honest with you. The fact that you're as positive about this stuff as you are is crazy to me. I would be throwing a fit, because you did a lot of that front end work with these kids, and someone else is reaping the rewards.
Yeah, Mike, it's not easy. It's some of probably the hardest times as a coach, and each one of those two young men were very different in kind of the process of how it happened. But it's a lot like the sport of wrestling, where nothing is guaranteed, and every match is a new opportunity for a win or a loss. And I think wrestling teaches you to take those L's as good as you can and try to find something good from it or an adjustment from it and make that adjustment to the next. I truly think in the era that we're in, you try to build the strongest relationship you can with these kids and help them trust and believe in you as much as you can. When it comes to those NIL deals, though, it's like you said, sometimes it's common sense. It's money that's future making the kids blue collar sport like wrestling families have never seen. And how do you keep them? And when it comes to Mitchell, I think Mitchell's was a little bit different than MJ's in that when he came here, it felt like he had already known that it wasn't going to be for him. And so I respect him to that degree that he still came here and gave it a go. But it felt in his heart, it felt to us that in his heart, even after a week, he was saying that he was homesick. He just spent the entire summer gone. And so it wasn't that you were homesick. It was that you knew that, you had an opportunity. You had some conversations with coaches since you won the U.S. Open. And I
since he won, he medals at the World Championships. He's going to get a phone call.
Yeah, there's just no way in this world. There's just, it is what it is. He is one of those guys that will be able to move the needle, and coaches are going to find a way to communicate with him. And so, that was tough. MJ was way harder for me, to be honest.
Really?
I had built a really strong relationship with MJ and his family, being so close. I coached him at the junior duels, and he had scripture on his wall in his room. I just really felt that this was a special fit. His technique was so similar. A lot of the stuff he'd come to clinics to that we had worked on together. That when he had made that was the hardest week of my life for coaching. I actually broke down crying in front of Coach Zaleski when we had a meeting after that I'm like, what am I doing here? I put all this work in to this young man and into this program. And is this for me? That was the hardest week of my life. I don't know. You ask yourself, did I do something wrong? What could I have done differently? And you look back and it's like, no, again, these are these young men and their opportunities and their decisions and their families. But that was tough. And it's one of those things where you just got to rebound, let time heal the wound, and go and find the next guy that believes in you, believes in your vision, believes in what you're building, and wants to be an entrepreneur. I think for us, it's going to take us finding a kid who hasn't had it in high school, the success to a level, and start to build them up a little bit more. We have a young man, Mateo de la Pena, a freshman at 165, that's really coming into his own. Got in on some great attacks at Iowa, just wasn't able to finish, came back and got a pin against Wyoming. And so those type of young men that do more of their growth and development here, once they get here and see it and believe it, that we're going to be able to hold on to them a little more than a high schooler that goes and finds that great success his senior year after committing and then starts to have different conversations and never really sees what they can do and build and be a part of out here.
I'm going to let the audience in on a very intimate conversation that you and I have had. You called me up before Fargo, and I forget what we were initially even talking about, but you're like, how's our boy Paul Kelly looking? And I'm like, good. I'm like, real good. He's working hard. And you go, but not too good, right? He ain't going to go out there and thump everybody, is he? Because we got to keep him under the radar.
Did I say that?
Something to the effect of that. Yeah. I mean, but dude, how can you not be scorned? How can you, I mean, how can you not be?
It's such a tough balance. You see these young men and you know what they're capable of and you know what you're going to be able to do with them. But at the same time, for me, after seeing them and knowing and then them going and do it, it can be scary sometimes when they go and do what you know they can do because you don't know what other coaches are going to do. It's just the honest truth. And I want the best for each of my recruits, obviously.
No, it was said totally tongue in cheek. I can't don't think that no one listen. Please don't think the coach actually wished ill upon one of his future athletes. No, that's not what was coming across. We laughed about it.
Yeah. It's like, and Paul's such a stud. You know what he's going to do. He's going to fight tooth and nail no matter what. It's what I love. Getting
him to stop fighting is the freaking problem right now. Okay. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Lines, when you see your kids having success, does that start to kind of implant a seed in your mind of like, oh man, he just did well with this tournament? Like our days are numbered. Like, do you have to start or think about a new recruiting process for any of these kids that are already on your team?
No, I don't change. We don't change who we are. We recruit you and we try to be upfront and transparent. And You find the success, we tell them they're going to find. Listen, you're going to commit here, and you're going to go do what we know you're going to go do. You have a chance to go win Super 2. You have a good chance to go win inductee. You should be a 3-4-time state champ. You should be a Fargo champion. And people are going to go call. And I hope that you remember this feeling right now of what you're being a part of and how much we believe in you now. And we know what you're going to be, whether it happens in high school or it happens here. And I hope you can commit to us like we commit to you. And you can't let the fear change how you treat them or who you are. It just is what it is and a part of the process. But,
but then there's going to be the other end of the spectrum when you do get a couple, because here's that becomes tricky too. Ask Michael Beard about it, right? Like there are programs out there, high level programs that are very upfront with saying, hey, we're going to recruit over you if we see it just is what it is. So I think what's the commodity, because I truly believe that when all this COVID year, this 6th year stuff starts to fizzle out and we see guys go back to, having 5 years of eligibility or, 4 years of active eligibility. I think the numbers that we see on these NIL deals will significantly go down because they will have guys will have finished their degree at a place and have run out of eligibility. That is not the case right now. So do you see, and maybe it's just me being a little bit more hopeful, do you see relationships being more of a commodity in college wrestling in the future? Or is it, or are we just going to sell out to the NIL gods?
I think it's coach dependent, program dependent, culture dependent. The relationship, I think for a team like us is going to be the number one piece. But you get to the Penn States, the Okie States, those are, it's going to be more of a finance thing. It's going to be a performance based thing. It's going to be do it, coach you up or coach you out type of thing where we're going to find somebody else. My goal is to find somebody to pour into like Coach Z poured into me. I didn't find my success until my very last year, but continued to trust and have faith in him and he and I. And I believe that was something special that transcends forever. I mean, it's 15, 16 years out of college at this point, and I just texted him right now about some things. He's on my board for the RTC. That coach relationship that lasts the time, your span in college, it goes forever. And I think that's kind of the hard thing to see. I feel like Bernie could have been a legend, the most successful at Cal Poly. He was building something, and then it's all gone now. And so what does that mean for his relationship for Cal Poly for the rest of his life? I don't know. But, for us, for me, for my staff, the relationship will be key. It will be what we build upon. And we're looking for young men that want that, as well as success and All-American ability and everything that you need to go and achieve your goals. But not if you don't do it in your first few years, good luck. It's, we're going to continue to pour into you, and our guys definitely 100% got to keep up. We're going to continue to recruit. But I believe pouring into them and building that relationship, they're going to trust us and they're going to find a way to break through in time, just with the number of guys that we have coming in, the level of guys that we have coming in, the recruiting class we have coming in. It's really exciting just to see the growth year over year of where this program can go and finding young men that want it like we want it. And that's the relationship that makes special for our guys.
Well, I mean, let's be honest, right? Brett Favre's going in to the Hall of Fame as a Packer, not as a Viking, right? I mean, so probably some distance behind that.
Behind it.
Yeah. But
that's true.
Yeah, it does sting a little bit.
For sure.
When you develop a kid who didn't have a tremendous amount of success as a high school wrestler, and you develop him into a multiple-time All-American. Golly, that's got to sting a little bit. And we talked to John quite a bit, and
he's great.
And he's great. He is. There's no question. All right, so How does a kid that is not on your radar, how does he go about getting your attention? Maybe it's not even your attention, but your staff's attention. Like how does he go like, man, I'm right there. They haven't noticed me, but dang it, I'm close. How does someone get on your radar that maybe isn't on your radar yet?
We get so many emails, right? And that's the challenge sometimes is we'll get emails and it won't be very informative, or it's like, okay, just not quite there. But for us, share with us, who you've beat or who you've almost beat or who are your close matches, and share some video of you wrestling people that we're going to know. It's challenging because a lot of those guys who aren't on that cusp maybe haven't been to national tournaments or they're just in their region. That makes it really challenging for us to evaluate. If you've only beat people within your state that aren't competing on a national level, it's just really challenging for us to make that decision right there. Okay, this kid's worth investing time and looking into. Reaching out, expressing why you want to be a part of this team. I think the biggest challenge that I think we receive is once I see that it's a cookie cutter email that you've sent to 50 other coaches, it's deleted. For me, I just don't have the time that if you're sending something that you're sending to everybody, if you put in there a reason why you want to attend CBU or what makes CBU unique to you, we'll reach back out to you, and I'll look into you a little bit, or let my assistant coaches look into you. Sharing some of your accolades or who are some of the tough guys you've been really close with, and also some video of what you've done that shows your ability to wrestle. That's key. It's interesting though, because we'll receive videos from kids and the music in the background is like rap songs with F-bombs in it. It's like, okay,
you didn't think this through at all, did you, sir?
You're just saying this to everybody. And that makes it easy for me a little bit. So, a little attention to detail goes a long way as well.
I didn't even think about that. They just got this cookie cutter, I guess it's like a sizzle reel of themselves that they just send to everybody. I didn't even think that was that's a thing, I guess, in 2023.
It's a piece of it. Yeah. I just think there's wrestling. We're rough around the edges. And I love that piece to it. But there's a certain degree where you just recognize when the professional meets the fun and social. And I think you're recruiting, put yourself out there to a faith-based institution.
Maybe you button it up a little bit. All right. Let's finish with a couple of quick questions. I'm going to fire at you, and I want you to answer them as quickly as possible. Try not to think too much. What is the best wrestling shoe of all time?
So I was never really a big shoe person, but the ones that I wore the most, I like it was A6 Varners, right?
Oh, really?
Not too many people liked them, but I love grip. Grip. And so they were all grippy all the way around. Those were my favorite shoes that I wore. But to tell you the truth,
wait. They were Adidas. Wait, was Varners Adidas? Yeah.
Were they Adidas? Yeah.
Like the all black ones? Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, I think so. I'm going to Google them over here.
Okay, so I will tell you that while you're Googling that, I will keep the balls juggling right now. Here's the thing. No, not the Varners. Okay. Oh, you talking about the Roulons?
Varners, yes. Those are them. Yep. Yes.
Roulons. Yes. Okay. All right. That is not a crazy. Just a side note, and if Jake Varner is listening, and I know that he is, okay.
I like you, Jake. I wore your shoes for a while, but they just
no. But I will come to bat and say I did like the Varners, but for whatever reason, whatever material the laces were made out of, they wouldn't stay tied for anything. Like you could have stapled them to my shin and they wouldn't have stayed tied. So, Adidas, work on it. Sorry.
Yeah. On that note, go watch my national championship. I was not a shoe or wrestling. I knew nothing. I had double knee pads, a tornado headgear, and an ankle socks guy. Okay, so listen, when it comes to wrestling, I am the weirdo.
Your wrestling swag was zero. Zero.
No,
oh my goodness.
the shoes I wore at the national championships, I'd only had for a few weeks because my shoes had blown out. So it wasn't a big thing for me.
Dude, my son just hit me up for a pair of $258 EXEOs. And I'm like, what?
Brush up your resume. You gotta go get that job.
Yes. Is it going to help you down block, son? Because if it ain't, I don't really care to drop a $250,000 on them. All right.
Tornado headgears, they get a bad rap, but they're real comfortable. Like
they were so comfortable and so mean. If you rub those on somebody, they're getting out of there, and there's your opportunity to go.
True story.
That's why everybody hates them. Like everyone hates them because you don't want to drill with the person who's got the tornado headgear and they're just rubbing it all over your face. But I never cared about my opponents.
Yeah. All right. Well, you guys are both jerks then. Fine. Okay. If you had a magic wand and you could change one thing about the sport of wrestling, what would it be?
Magic wand, I could change one thing about the sport of wrestling. Honestly, I would just find a way I just wish the rest of the country or the world would know the rules and understand them like they do basketball or football or something. In Russia, they just all know the rules and they love it. I just wish, hey, just know the rules, come out and watch, and you're going to love this sport because once you get into it, it's just so amazing and special and unique. I wish that people knew it. They just don't. How are we going to educate the people to see this sport the way that we see it? So many people that once they get in whatever sport that they were in, they're like, oh, I wish I had wrestled sooner. But it's just nobody gives it a shot. And so I just wish I could wave a magic wand and the rules. Now come and watch, and you're going to enjoy this like the rest of us enjoy.
Oh, that's interesting. I never really thought about that. Yeah, knowing the rules is a big deal, man.
That's for me. That's what I wish.
I like that. All right. Last one, probably the most difficult of the three. Who's on the Mount Rushmore wrestling?
I don't think it's that difficult. For me, Jordan Burroughs is there. You have to put John Smith up there for sure.
John W.
Are we talking the wrestling piece, the coaching piece, the whole picture? Or we just competition?
It is up to you. So we have so many different answers for this. Like it's unbelievable. Everyone puts the coaching on Gable and Kale, the wrestling on JB. So it's up to you.
Yeah.
But you got JB, you got John W.
I got JB, I got John, you got Dan Gable, and for me, and this is just more personal because of who he is. And this is probably not a popular choice, but I just think that he's such a special guy, and he continues to go right now. And everyone's going to hate me for this one, but I just believe I love Kyle Snyder.
I think more people need to say that. The dude has 4. He has 4, and nobody even puts him on the list. He has 4, and also, by the way, has a W over who might be. I mean, Sad Life might go down as one of the greatest ever. Period. The end. Yeah. I remember watching Buvasar wrestle, but the ability, like positionally, I think Sadalayev might be the best wrestler I've seen in every single position, every single one.
He's a freak. He is special, and talented at such a young age, and he's such an influence, a strong young man of faith that shows kids what it's like to do something, dedicate yourself, and I just love that guy.
No, he's great. He's awesome. Okay, Derek Moore, where can people find you if they need to get a hold of you? Where should people be watching for CBU Wrestling?
Yeah, so I mean, we're on all platforms at CBU Wrestling on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. For me, I'm Coach Moore 141 or Train for More on Twitter. You can watch us. We stream all of our matches on Flow Wrestling as well as YouTube. But hopefully you're looking for us at the NCAA tournament here this coming March for the first time. A Lancer gets to hone the singlet at the NCAA tournament now that we're a Division I program. And then look for us at the Big 12s this year, especially Eli Griffin's doing something special.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Coach. I really appreciate your time. Appreciate you coming on. Appreciate you talking to us for a little bit.
Always a pleasure, Mike. Joel, great seeing you guys. I'll talk with you soon. And yeah, Mike, I'm sure I'll see you soon.
Talk very soon, Coach. All right.
Thanks,
See ya.
Eric.